All right, so now we're going to get on to some fun stuff here. We're going to get into what's called unwrapping and using the UV mode, right? So to break apart a texture map to apply to one of our models in a specific way, right? So first I'll just show you um, so textures, right? So we know how to apply materials, right? Shaders to things. But let's say you want to apply a texture. Let's say you have a nice image of, bricks or wood or sand or stone, or just like you have some kind of texture that you want to build a texture map for. So, there's lots of ways that you can go about getting these images, but again, I'm referring you back to this Polyhaven site. They're really, really good. Just come down to textures, right? So we looked at HDRIs, textures now. So if you just come into browse textures, and here they're showing you all these different types of textures, right? And you can search by material, right? You can search by metal, fabric, wood. So, you know, let's say we find a really cool texture that you want to use, you want to incorporate. Let's just say, I don't know, say this brick wall here. Okay, so we have this, licensing looks good. We're just going to download this. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we're going to download this. So this is unknown 2. I'm just going to put this on my desktop. Okay. Come back to Maya. So what we're going to do now is we're going to assign new material. Okay, I'm going to use shader. I'm going to use my Arnold shader, standard surface. Okay, I'm going to come into where the color is. I'm going to click this little icon here, and then I'm going to select file, and then the image name right here. This is going to ask me where I'm looking for it. So I put that on my desktop. That was unknown 2. I'm going to open that up, textures, and then now I have some various versions, right? I've got PNG, JPEG. I'm gonna just go ahead and pick that. Now, if you don't see anything, it's because you might have textures turned off. So just hit 6. Okay. So then there we go. Now we have that textured box. So that's how we apply texture to just basic surfaces, right? But now let's say you have a texture that wraps around, right? Let's just say you have a specific like label. Let's say you have I'll show you how to do this with like a Coke can or something, but you want the texture map to wrap around the box in a more controlled way. So if you notice up here, right, you have this UV menu. Now UV editor will just open up another. Hang on, let me create a new box here. So my UV editor is just going to open up a new window that is going to show me each of these faces on a different plane. So here we have a box that's unboxed, right? It's keeping all of those planes connected and basically unwrapping the object, okay? So that, and there's lots of different ways that you can do this, and we'll go on into more advanced stuff, after a little while, but there's a lot of different ways that you can tell Maya how to unwrap an object based on its size, right? If it's planar, cylindrical, spherical. So for simple objects like this is easy, right? So a lot of times automatic will work, right? You can use automatic. Okay. So what Maya is going to do is it's going to go, okay, I'm going to separate each of these faces out. And then when I go to, excuse me, when I go to the UV editor here, right, it has each of these faces separated out. Okay. And I can select like here, I can select them here, or if I highlight over them here in the viewport, it'll show which one is corresponding over here. And I can also, right, I can also move these around, right? I can rotate them, I can scale them. I'm just limited to the two-dimensional plane here, right? So, and then, so nothing I do here is affecting the shape of anything here. Think of it this way. This is the projection of what's being projected onto the faces. These are the faces themselves, okay? So let's say you have an image that you find that actually shows kind of all 6 sides of a box or a cube. And luckily for you, I just so happen to have something like that. So I'm gonna go back to object mode, and I'm gonna assign a new material. I'm gonna use my shader again, my Arnold shader, my standard surface. Okay. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna go to File, and then I'm gonna come to the folder here. And on my desktop, I have and I'll provide this for you as well too, so you can kind of work alongside me and play around. I have this closed cardboard box, free download, textures, and I have this, right? So this is showing, right? It's not a lot of detail, but it's showing, right, the two sides of the box and then top, bottom, left, and right. So I'm just gonna open this up, okay? And then that shows me that I have this box or this texture of the box. But if you see, it's not quite lined up properly. But then this is where we can go into the UV editor, hit automatic. Oh, sorry, select that. Hang on. Okay. And then we can go to UV editor. Okay, so this is showing me, right, each of these UV shells here that I can manipulate and move around. So you can see this is this side right here, right? And then I can shape this to fit, right, that size of the box, right? I can skew and rotate, and like I said, I'm not going to rotate, but like if I wanted to, I could even rotate it. But since this is pretty straightforward, let me go ahead and just, right? So that gives me that side. I can rotate this to see here. And let me just quickly do this. And depending on the patterning of the box, like you have a lot of control as to what you want these faces to show. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay. And then when you have things like this, right, you can see that it's not quite right. So we're gonna fix this here. Right. So that's how you would do this with a cube, right? Essentially, an easier object. But then let me show you how you could do this with a cylindrical object. So I'm going to just delete this. Actually, let me just start a new scene. My computer's been acting a little buggy here. But let's say we have a cylinder now. Okay, and let's say like you have a can, like a soda can or spray paint can or something, and you wanna map that image around the surface. So a couple things. It's the same process, right? You do want to assign the material. So, but what we're gonna do first is we're gonna do a different way of unwrapping this thing here. So I'm gonna come up to UV. All right, sorry, I'm gonna go to face mode because I don't want to map onto the top of this, right? Or at least I'm gonna try to. Well, let me. Oops. Okay. So I have the surface of the cylinder mapped out, and then I'm going to come to UV, and I'm going to go to cylindrical. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to let me decide how much. Oops. It's going to let me decide how much of the cylinder face I want to be covering. Oops. That's not what I want to be doing. So this right here, this horizontal projection sweep right here, you want to make sure this is all the way up because then that's going 160 or 360 degrees around, right? So I'm all the way around, and then I'm going to shift. Okay, so I have the faces highlighted. Okay, why is this? I don't want this here. Oh. Okay, and then I'm going to go to object mode. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go into object mode, or sorry, face mode here, and I'm going to right click and assign new material, shader, standard surface. Okay, I'm going to come here, come to file, and then on my desktop as well, I have a little Coke can image here, and I'll hit 6. So then that applies, right? See, it didn't apply to the top or the bottom. And then if I want to edit this, I come back into the UV editor, and then here's where I can scale things around, right? Get it to fit the right way. Notice if I keep going larger, then the pattern will just repeat, right? It just repeats over and over. So this is how you can map 2D images onto three-dimensional surfaces. Okay, very basic, right? Well, this UV menu can get pretty complicated, but that's the gist of it, right? So you know how to apply the textures, you know how to apply materials. Same thing now. You would just apply a text. You would apply the material, and then for color, you would edit the image or tell your computer where that file is, and then you can manipulate it that way. Okay, so yeah, let's see if some of your rooms need some of this, right? Maybe you have boxes in your rooms or objects or spheres or any other textures, and then yeah, let's see how you guys do with this.